Um, Good morning. You're listening to Atheist Torah Study here on, sorry, that's my radio voice. Good morning. You're listening to Atheist Torah Study. My name is Emma, and this is this is a year-long exploration of the Jewish Torah from the perspective of an atheist. I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted because it's so beautiful out. I need to show you the morning light. It's really pretty right now. That's the morning sun. It's just so gorgeous. Anyways, um, so today Re'eh, portion Re'eh, it means to see or seen, but it refers to a deeper kind of seeing, not just seeing with your eyes or not even seeing like sort of the another kind of scene, like imagining your day or I don't know, the things around you. This is like really, really deep scene. This is like the kind of scene that you do when you're an atheist, basically. So let's read the Torah portion and explore it. Um, so I dug up some statistics on the Torah portion for starters. So this is the 47th of 54 Torah portions, which means it's almost the high holidays. In the Jewish calendar, this is also the 7 weeks of consolation. So first there's, in Jewish tradition, there's like a time for everything. Like everything, every part of the calendar year has some sort of time associated with it. And that's an important function of religions is they kind of mark time for people. I mean, as atheists, we don't really do that so much, but part of we mark time as atheists, but we do it in a completely different way. I mean, for me, time begins at the beginning of the universe. So that was like 14.6 billion years ago or so. We're not sure exactly now because of the Hubble, because of the James Webb. Maybe the universe is a little older than we thought it was. But I'm still going by the old statistic that it's 14.6 billion years old. So that's one kind of time. But then as an atheist, there's also like, I was talking about this and I don't completely understand it. So a lot of times I talk about things I don't understand. Um, so I read an article that argued that time may not exist on the quantum level and that what we read as time has to do with like the macroscopic universe, but the quantum universe, which is really like the foundation of everything in existence, like it doesn't have anything that's related to the word time. It's a completely different kind of assembly. Although it's not different because it's just what we are. But oh, sorry. But it would kind of explain how like when we experience the world, like everything in the universe is kind of the same. Like it's not like different parts of the universe have completely different laws of physics. Like every part of the universe seems to produce galaxies and black holes, and the universe seems to be uniform in all directions, although it's oh, slightly permeated. So, time is, anyway, so atheists, we have different kinds of time. So, I mean, you start with that, and then we have, I don't know, like, there's atheists. I don't know, atheists don't really, we don't have like a calendar the same way that my Jewish tradition has a calendar. But, anyways, this is sorry, I don't know why I got so yawny all of a sudden. Anyways, this is the 7 weeks of consolation. So it's the time right before the high holidays, which start in about a month or so from today. And the high holidays in Jewish tradition are um, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and then Shemini Aretz, and oh, and Simchat Torah. That's right. Shemini Aretz finals, yeah. So those are the high holidays. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Oh. Those are the high holidays. Rosh Hashanah is sort of considered the Jewish New Year. These are all kind of based on the agricultural cycle. And there's a little bit of this in this Torah portion that I'll get to if I ever get to the Torah portion. But it's really based on the agricultural cycle. So it's like a mixture of the agricultural cycle and then kind of like some religious traditions that have to do with things about changing your own inner dynamic, like your own inner personality. So, anyway, Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year. It's the start of the new calendar year for Judaism. And Yom Kippur is although there's several Jewish New Years, that isn't the only one. But let's see, and then Yom Kippur is the Jewish Day of Atonement. It's a day to kind of think about, it's a day to think about like how to be a better person, basically. Like it's a chance to think about, oh, the past year, like maybe you didn't do things quite as good as you could have, and how could you try to be better? And then Sukkot is this really weird festival where you're supposed to sit outdoors for a week and in a booth, quote unquote, a booth that you make. And it's, as far as I can tell, it's like maybe it's kind of like Burning Man. It's like burning, yeah, it is. It's a little bit like Burning Man. Or like going to a festival. It's like if you go to a festival, it's like Woodstock, like you go someplace and you got to have a camp. And so this is a way of acknowledging that it's also supposed to be a time for feasting and gathering with your family. So it comes after Yom Kippur. And then Simchat Torah is like a celebration of the Torah. Anyways, so those are some of the Jewish festivals. Anyways, yeah, those are all coming up pretty soon. So the main themes in this week's Torah portion are um, the blessings and the curses, centralizing of worship, destruction of other religious sites and idols, false prophets and idol worship, the laws of kashrut, tithing, the sabbatical year, Hebrew slaves and their release, firstborn animals, Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot. Anyways, it's a really thick portion. It starts off just really awful. I mean, it's just so, like with so much of the Torah portion, as an atheist, it's going to be hard to talk about some of this stuff. There's a few good things. I mean, I think that the section on the festivals is really good because that's just talking about how people celebrate life. And the sabbatical year and debt release is pretty good. That's not too bad. I mean, it's not great. It's not really all that interesting, but it's at least something positive. But there's so much in this Torah portion that's like getting back to my central thesis, whew, there's so much in this Torah portion that's about destroying other religions and having this kind of purity. And it's not something that just runs through Judaism, it runs through most religions. All right, well, let's get into it. I'm so excited because I'm almost done with this. I really, but I really wanted to make sure to do this year. It was important to me, but I'm almost done. All right, Parsha Re'eh. This is Deuteronomy chapter 11, verse 26. See, this day I set before you a blessing and a curse. So, in the story, so in the story, there's these two mountains, and they're supposed to symbolize the blessings if Israel follows the covenant with God and the curses if Israel doesn't. And it gets back to this idea that's really kind of central to Judaism that I talked about last week, which is that Jewish religion is about this covenant relationship between God and its people. Now, I mean, as an atheist, I was thinking about this a lot this week. I mean, it's like there's all of these prohibitions in the Torah against anything except for monotheism. And this portion will go really deeply into monotheism. But I mean, I think about like, well, what exactly was a person's experience of God? Because like regardless of what you say on the Torah on a piece of paper or what kind of a society you try to create, like no matter what kind of rules you make or no matter what kind of laws, temples, churches, synagogues, mosques, no matter how many sacred writings you make, and no matter how many like stories people tell on television or tell each other. I mean, the reason I'm doing this is because as an atheist, it's like the world is just littered with religion. It's littered with religions and religious expression. And I mean, they make up this like cultural garbage that like just completely fills up almost all human consciousness. And no matter what anybody has done with any of that stuff, there's never been any God or gods or anything. It's always been the human imagination. That's what it's always been. It's always been like a human being having an experience or being told they're having an experience. So it's something about how brains work. And but the point that I'm getting at is that the religions, I mean, they recognize the brain recognizes this truth in some way. I mean, it recognizes that there is no God, but but religion, it does so much more than just make a claim to a God. I mean, it literally like lifts people through existence. I mean, it I call all of this stuff garbage, and I really mean that intellectually. But y at the same time, even though that's true, it's also true that, religion literally carries people through their existence. So there's also something about religion that's really deeply connected to human survival, to that sense of human survival. I mean, people wouldn't be sitting around having these conversations all day long, literally for centuries and centuries and centuries, if they didn't think that this was just foundationally tied to their survival as a species. I mean, people wouldn't have carried this through all of human existence if they didn't believe that on some level. So because people think it's and the text reinforces that. I mean, the text reinforces it. It's like the text reinforces this sense that somehow this is connected to human survival and human thriving. And of course, it makes these extraordinary claims. I mean, just absolutely fantastical claims. Like week after week, religion after religion, they all make these incredible claims, and so does the Torah. The Torah makes these claims too. But part of what I'm trying to get at here is that so like on some level, there's this idea that somehow the rational or the logical chain of development in a society is to go from polytheism to monotheism. And so, and then from monotheism to atheism, because there's really nothing left after monotheism. I mean, once you've basically said that there isn't like God, like where I live, like there's no like look here at nature. Okay, here's nature. So there isn't any god of the rose that's separate from the god of art, which is those sad little statues right there. And then there's the sky god, and there's no, so the sky god's about to bring the chariot across the sky. And then, there isn't any god of coffee. So, uh, but in polytheism, you would say maybe there's like all of those different gods. There's not of coffee, but like the wind, the sun, nature, the trees, the river, whatever's around you, it all has a god. And then, monotheism is like, oh no, and of course you can't have any idols. So of course, this you can't worship this right here, which this is this would be an idol. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It kind of looks like a goddess figurine, just a little bit. Anyways, so you can't worship that in monotheism, but um you still haven't really gotten anywhere because there's still no God. I mean, it doesn't matter if you say there's a God of the sun and of the wind and of the moon and of the departed ancestors, or if you say that there's just one God. Like none of those gods gets you anywhere. It doesn't get you any closer to anything. So I mean, in a way, in a way, monotheism is sort of the next thing. I mean, atheism is the next thing because it's like once you've basically got rid of all the other gods, you said there is no God but God, and God is the God of everything. Like, and God is beyond anything that you can understand, and you know, and you're just nothing, which is the kind of language religion uses. Just imagine that, like growing up all the time hearing that you're nothing. I mean, think about what that does to the brain intellectually to hear that kind of information. You're nothing. That's what That's what religion says all the time. You're nothing. You're a speck of dust. That's what it says. It's like, no, you're not a speck of dust. You're an animal with blood and brains and a skeleton and you're not a speck of dust. You're a speck of dust when you die and your body is cremated if that's what happens to it. If you're mummified, then you're a mummy, but you're not a speck of dust. You're just a thing that's alive and then it's no longer alive. But that's everything. I mean, everything the only thing that doesn't do that is like rocks, you know. Everything else changes all the time. We're made of rocks. We're made of all those little things. We're not any different. We're made of all those little things. So anyways, yeah, that's the kind of it's so brain warping. It's just it's such an incredible waste of time and of human potential. I mean, to think that we've spent literally thousands of years with this stuff. And it's like, what happened? 6,000 years ago on the plains of Mesopotamia, what happened? Where did we go wrong? How did we end up with this mess that we've created where like 6,000 years later, we've wasted the lives of, literally billions of people on this stuff and all of the potential and the ways that they could contribute to the world and make meaning out of their lives. It's like we've just filled everybody's heads with these bizarre religions. And in the meantime, we've had militaries that have gone back and forth all over the earth, murdering each other and taking land from each other. And it kind of sounds like it kind of sounds like the Bronze Age all over again, honestly. Human existence now doesn't sound that different from the Bronze Age, except it is different. It is something did change, but religion didn't cause it. Religion didn't cause that change. It's like, I don't know, something just happened. Maybe it was mercantilism and the spread of mercantilism and how that, I don't know, freed up people somehow. I'm not sure. That's another podcast. Or there's lots of books you can read about that, like how things changed. But now they're different. I can sit here on my front porch and I can be an atheist. I can even go to religions all around the world and here in my own country, I can go visit all kinds of religions. I don't have to believe any of them. I don't have to do anything to them. I can study them. I can analyze them. And I can sit here and talk about atheism because it's a different world now. That's it. I mean, but we're just slowly waking up. And it's like I part of me wants to say, well, we wake up in time, but then I think, well, that sounds like eschatology. There is no time, there's no waking up in time. We're a species and we'll just continue on as a species. I don't know. One of the things I've been thinking about lately, it, I, I've really been thinking about this a lot. I mean, I'm looking around at human society. I mean, I think about the Holocaust. I think about what this country is doing right now. I think about how it seems impossible for people to really have empathy, like for the whole world. It seems really difficult. So I mean, I've been thinking lately, I wonder if like maybe there isn't really any such thing as ethics or morality. I mean, these are ideas that like have been pounded into our brains so much by religion and philosophy And just common social convention, just common social convention says that these things exist and that they're part of our nature. But what if there really isn't any morality? Because it's like when I look at the world and when I look at what we think are ethics, I see that we have blind spots like everywhere, basically. We have all of these blind spots built into everything that we do. And like, I mean, a true ethics and a true morality would be logically consistent. It would have to be logically consistent. I mean, you couldn't be a God who says that you're the God of everything and you're the God of the universe. And then that's the same God that would go and, in the story, in the text, would go and just like wipe out people like we're about to like hear about. I mean, that's an inconsistent God. And like it's turtles all the way up. Like no matter how far down you get in the text or how high up you get in the text, like when I say height, I mean symbolically, like in the symbolism of the text, like the highest things are supposed to be the God that is sort of like the agent running the show in the text. But the God is just a projection of the human imagination. It's the mind of the redactors. And of course, at the time that the redactors wrote this, they could only imagine what they could imagine about their God. I mean, who knows what kind of a God people would write today? But it would be interesting. There's probably somebody doing it right now. There's probably somebody writing a new religion right now that may or may not catch on. I know people invent new religions all the time. But anyways, the people who they didn't invent this religion, but they did the redactors who created the architecture, the framework for the text of the Torah, for the, really kind of setting the Torah as a text of religious nationalism. I mean, those people, and then my thought just ended. I was going somewhere with those thoughts and then they just disappeared. What was I talking about? I don't know. Well, let's get into the text. Here goes. See, this day I set before you a blessing and a curse. Blessing if you obey the commandment of the eternal that I enjoin upon you this day, and curse if you do not obey the commandments of the eternal your God, but turn away from the path that I enjoin upon you this day, and follow other gods whom you have not experienced. Oh, yeah, that's right. So it's like a lot of things in the Torah. I mean, it's kind of open-ended, and I mean, I'm sure that the redactors didn't intend this. Who knows if anybody ever intended this to actually be read by anyone except for a small group of people. But the language, and of course, the Hebrew is different. Like you have to, you're supposed to read it in Hebrew. So, and that's supposed to give you a better sense of what it means. But here it's really clear. So, if you do not obey the commandments that the eternal your God, but turn away from the path that they have enjoined upon you, and follow other gods whom you have not experienced. So the it's really kind of clunky. It could have just said, it could have said just don't obey, don't follow other gods, or just no idolatry or something like that. But but for it to say other gods whom you have not experienced, and that's the translator's text, but it still seems pretty clear to me. It means that you can actually experience other gods. It doesn't say it's like a lot of stuff in the Torah. It doesn't it's not really clear, but it seems to imply that you can experience other gods, but you're not supposed to experience other gods. You're only supposed to experience this God. So That seems pretty clear. And if you just experience this God, then you'll get these rewards, So it's very rational in some ways. It's very rational. But is it ethical? Let's find out if it's ethical. Let's see if this is ethical. When the eternal your God brings you into the land that you are about to enter and possess. Okay, so that's number one. Let's see how many there are in the Torah reading today. So is this ethical? You know. So the very first one is the land that you're about to enter and possess. So it's somebody else's land, and and they didn't invite you. So you're violating the laws of hospitality in the Levant. You're violating the laws of hospitality. Now, of course, remember, this is all just text. Okay, this is written. This is a story. It's not real. I mean, the truth is that the people in the story already lived in the land because really, probably, they're probably indigenous to the land. I mean, they're probably descended from Canaanites. Although people were moving around all over the place back then. People moved around a lot. And they also stayed in place a lot too. They did both. So in the story, the vehicle of the story is the vehicle of the story is this, the movement. So when you really get at it, the real truth in the text is about movement. It's not really about anything else. It's 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 art. It's become abstract art. And it's really about movement. And it's about so the part of it, so when people think it's universal, it's like that's the text speaking back to people because there's no clues in the text from the redactors to help you really understand what the text is saying. What people end up doing is universalizing the text. They just do it instinctively because it's like you have to give some kind of a meaning to some crazy thing you're reading because it's like you have no idea why you're reading this or what it's about, but somehow it has to have meaning to you as a person. And so for you as a person, what this text has done over time is it's become universal and it's become personal. And so this is a text about moving into a place and possessing it, which, this is a stand-in for colonialism. This is also about just movement in general. It could be anything. That's one of the things about religion. It's very non-specific. And so it could be anything. But in the text, the ethics in the text are very clear. The ethics in the text. And this is the part that this is why religion is always logically inconsistent. It's like every single paragraph of a religious text is full of these logical contradictions. It's full of these incredibly problematic statements. And here, the problematic statement is that you're going to enter a land and you're going to possess the territory there. And there isn't any discussion about the people who already possess the land, the people who already live there. You know, I mean, it's kind of like that Tom Hanks movie. It's like, what is that movie? He's like, he's on an airplane for FedEx and the plane crashes. And then he's living on this desert island for years, and then somebody finds him. And he goes back to his old life. And it's not the same life anymore. It's changed. Everything's changed. You know, the world has changed. And the woman that he thought he was going to marry married somebody else. She has a whole life of her own. She has kids. They have a house. And Tom Hanks is just like, well, what did I do? He's like, I mean, he had been spending his whole life sitting on this island, thinking about coming back to this woman and having this life that he was expecting to have when he got back. And when he returned, it all disappeared. And that's how the universe is. That's how the universe is. So here's, the story here is like, oh, you're supposed to go back to the land that God has promised you from the story from before, and the story from before is like, what is it, like 440 years before when you're in the land. And the whole thing is just a made up story, although there's also truth in it. I mean, the people who were indigenous to Canaan probably did live there 400 years ago, and their descendants, for how many generations in 400 years? Like 20 or 30 generations. Their descendants, like 20 or 30 generations later, probably still lived in Canaan. But now they were these things called Jews, and they had this religion they had to obey. I mean, think about it. The religion, there's nothing indigenous about the religion to the people. I mean, everybody has their own religions that they develop over time. People develop their own religions. And these people had their religion, and it became indigenous to their culture. And their religion was this kind of monotheism. It's this monotheism that got concretized into religious nationalism and got preserved in this text. But the Canaanites are the people who inherited this religion when the text was redacted, are completely different from like the people who hold the religion 20 centuries later, which is how many generations? I don't know, 100? I'm not sure. I mean, how many people? I'm going to look this up really quick because I'm curious. Like, how many people, how many in a generation? How many are there? How many generations in a century is it? And it's like, you wonder about that. Let's see, how many 4 to 5? Yeah, 25 years versus five. So, like, five. Okay, let's say there's 5 generations in a century. And so 2,300 years later, that's like, so how many generations in 2,300 years? How many generations in 2,300 years is uh somewhere between 77 and 115 generations of people. And that's a lot, a generation. So, anyways, so let's get on with the text. Sorry, I do this a lot. Both are on other sides of the Jordan. Beyond the west is the road. Uh, oh, sorry. Let me go back up here. When the eternal your God brings you into the land that you're about to enter and possess, you shall pronounce the blessing at Mount Gerizim and the curse at Mount Ebal. Both are on the other side of the Jordan, beyond the west road that is in the land of the Canaanites, who dwell in the Arabah. So Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal, they're not very big mountains, but they're pretty noticeable. I mean, they're big. I'm just used to the Rockies. We have a different kind of mountain out here in the Rockies, but there's these two mountains. Like where I live here in Oregon, it would be like, Mount Hood and Mount St. Helens. Like, go to Mount Hood and proclaim the blessings, and go to Mount St. Helens, the one that blew up, and proclaim the curses. Both are on the other side of the Jordan, beyond the west road that is in the land of the Canaanites, who dwell in the Arabah, near Gilgal, by the terebinths of Moreh. That's the sacred groves. For you about to cross the Jordan. I heard I was listening to this podcast this week from this rabbi. He was from a synagogue down in Los Angeles, and he was talking about the Jordan River, and it was so funny. He talked about how, like, in Christian mythology and like in Christian tradition, the Jordan River is like this great river. It's like it's like the Mississippi of the Middle East, or even more mightier, it's like the Colorado River, or it's just like this mighty river, the mighty river of the Jordan. And he was joking about how it's like, it's nothing. He talked about the Los Angeles cul-de-sac, it's like the dry river that runs through Los Angeles that, like, it's just a puddle, and he was like, that's a mighty river compared to the Jordan. And anyways, it was kind of funny. But when you read the text here, like the Jordan, so it's like the river. I mean, you're looking for some place in the text to put something. So I mean, well, you have the mountain, so you can attach a certain kind of spirituality to that. I mean, they definitely do that. There's this. I think there's a recognition of things that were sacred. I mean, these are places that are considered sacred. That's like, these are places where you find the sacred. You find it in a mountain. You find it in the river. I think that's why they're being mentioned here. But the river is also a boundary. Like, once you cross the river, that's the land you possess. So that's what it's saying, anyways. Take care to observe all the laws and rules I have set before you this day. Okay, so here's where we really get into it. And this is really the atheist content. It's hard. It's hard to read this stuff. I mean, especially because it keeps on coming week after week. These are the laws and rules that you must carefully observe in the land that the eternal God of your ancestors is giving you to possess as long as you live on earth. So it's telling you, like, literally, as long as you live on earth, you have to do this. You must destroy all the sites at which the nations you are to dispossess worshipped their gods, whether on lofty mountains and on hills or under any luxuriant tree. Tear down their altars, smash their pillars, put their sacred posts to the fire, and cut down the images of their gods, obliterating their name from that site. Do not worship any eternal. Do not worship the eternal your God in like manner, but look only to the eternal your God, to the site that the eternal your God will choose amidst all your tribes as God's habitation, to establish the divine name there. There you are to go, and there you are to bring burnt offerings and other sacrifices, your tithes and contributions, your votives and freewill offerings, and the firstlings of your herds and flocks. So, oh boy, that's hard reading that. Let's go back through that. Okay, so the very first verse. These are the laws and rules. Okay, laws and rules. You must carefully observe in the land that the eternal what? The eternal nothingness, your God of your ancestors, God of your ancestors, is given you to possess as long as you live on the earth. So the redactors are really, really concerned with just freezing this moment in time, you know? And it's like, I think anybody who's had this experience of like having it's like they have a certain kind of power. They've gotten a certain kind of advantage. And there's this real desire to like preserve whatever it is that they have. I mean, we're kind of going through that right now with automobiles and with fossil fuels. It's like these are the laws and the rules that the automotive industry has given you that you must carefully observe on the earth as long as you live on the earth. It's like we live in this, it's like we know that automobiles are really bad for us. We know that fossil fuels are terrible for us, you know. We know that because we're hitting up the earth. I mean, everything's on fire now, you know. France is on fire this year. The west of the United States is always on fire. It's just the rivers are drying up. The species are dying. We're just completely ruining this planet with fossil fuels. And yet we've never had it so good, you know. I mean, I have no idea what the world is going to look like when fossil fuels just become unrealistic. My guess is honestly that unless we have some kind of like, real moment of awakening as a species globally, we'll probably just continue burning fossil fuels until we've just made the earth basically uninhabitable for us. And then the earth will kind of get rid of us that way because it'll make most of the earth so uninhabitable that like it'll be really hard for us to survive in large numbers. And then it'll take the earth a long, long time to recover, like millions of years. So the next verse is, you must destroy all the sites at which the nations you are to dispossess worship their gods. So why? Why do you need to do that? I mean, these people are worshiping their gods. Why do you need to destroy their sites? Just let them worship their gods for God's sake. You know, if that's what they want to do, that's their business. You know, you don't have any business going into somebody. And it's like, how can God be telling people to do this? You know, this is God, quote unquote, telling people to go do this. It's just, it basically like, there's so many places in the text where basically God is just, you know, it's not a character worthy of any respect. But I mean, you have to kind of understand this from the perspective of the Bronze Age and the classical Hellenistic age. I mean, the people writing this are people who've had this done to them. And it's like everybody in this part of the world has had this done to them, and they've done it to each other too. I mean, this is just you know, these empires rise, and it's like every empire does the same thing. It's just here. I don't know. It's so over the top that there's got to be something below it. It's a real insecurity, just an incredible insecurity to think that you, like, first of all, that you have to take somebody else's land, but also to say that you have to destroy their religion. It's just a real insecurity, and it kind of shows how the the redactors just they had a profound sense of insecurity about losing their position. And but you know, I mean, I'm sure that they really loved their people too, the redactors. And I think that they were really afraid that they would lose their people too, or that their people would lose themselves. You know, there's obviously a lot of love and concern here for on the redactors' part for their people. And they think their people are the best, and that there isn't anything better than that. And so it's like really zealous in terms of the instructions. But I mean, destroying something that's been built on a mountain, that's like the, UNESCO World Heritage site. You can't go destroying that. We've seen what happens just in this century, just in the last 30 years. We've seen what happens because when the Taliban took over and they're really active in Afghanistan and in Pakistan, um, they destroyed Buddhist statues that had been around for thousands of years. And of course, they also destroyed the World Trade Center, which was horrifying. So, anyways, let's read some more. Tear down their altars, smash their pillars, put their sacred posts to the fire, and cut down the images of their gods, obliterating their name from that site. So erase history and engage in acts of violence. Yeah, that sounds like the Bible. Let's see. We'll do just a little bit more. I think I'm almost out of time. Do not worship the eternal your God in a like manner. So it says do not worship in a like manner. But what they mean is because there hasn't been any instructions here on how those other people are worshiping their God. It's just the God is telling you how to destroy all their sites. And I mean, you have to wonder, like, why does the God care so much about those other people? Like, if this is the God of the universe, the God of everything, then why does this God care about what some other gods do? You know, I mean, obviously he does care. So, all right. Whew. Last 5 minutes. Only look to that site the eternal your God will choose amidst all your tribes as God's habitation to establish the divine name there. There you are to go, and there you are to bring burnt offerings and other sacrifices, your tithes and contributions, your votive and freewill offerings, and the firstlings of your herds and flocks. So it's basically telling you the reason you're doing all of this is so that you can do that. Together with your households, you shall fear before the eternal your God, happy in all the undertakings in which the eternal your God has blessed you. So now it gets the happiness part. And then it has a bunch of instructions. You shall not act as we act now here for everyone. What does that mean? You shall not act at all as we now act here, everyone as they please. Okay. I'm not sure what that means because you've not come to the allotted haven that the eternal your God is giving you. So, right, right. Yeah, I forgot about this part. So this part it isn't quite as controversial as some of the other stuff, but what it's basically saying is here that the rules of the Torah really only apply in the land. Like the things that the God has told these people to do are things they're supposed to do, like when they live at the place they're going to go to. And the point of that, again, the point of it is that the redactors are already in the land. They already have the temple. They already have the kingship, and they're rewriting history. They're doing this act of creative writing of history. in order to sort of explain the world as it is. And they're doing it through the you know, they're doing it through the character of Moses, but they're also doing it through the character of God. So like they've created a God and a man, and they're both very interchangeable. So anyways, I think we're almost done. When you cross the Jordan and settle in the land that the eternal your God has allowed into you, and you are granted safety from all your enemies around you, and live in security. So again, the redactor is telling the people that they live in security now. And then the redactor is telling the people to do the things that benefit the priestly class. Then you must bring everything I command you to the site where the eternal your God will choose to establish the divine name, your burnt offerings and other sacrifices, your tithe and contributions, and all the choice of votive offerings that you vow to God. I think I'm going to stop there. It goes on there. Actually, the very next verse. I should probably read the next verse just to kind of capture the irony of what's happening here. There's a bunch of rules. You shall rejoice before the eternal your God with your sons and daughters, and with your male and female slaves, along with the Levites in your settlements, for he has no territorial allotment among you. So that's nice. So you mentioned the Levites, but what about the male and female slaves? You didn't really say that much about. There's a whole section here later in the Torah portion about the slaves that we're not going to get to today, but it's about what to do when your slave joyfully decides that they want to be your slave. Like even though God has told you you have to free the slaves after like a certain number of years, there's a section in this portion about in spite of that, like if you want to remain a slave and be faithful to your master anyways, well then here's what you do to do that. So anyways, that's part of Portion Re'eh. I didn't get to much today because I went blathering on as I usually do about lots of other things, but there's a little sampling of it and some of my atheist commentary on it. So thank you so much for joining me. I really look forward to the next. There's about four or five of these left, and then we will be all done. And I really thank you so much for taking this journey with me. Thanks so much, and see you next week if you want to join me.